Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys about the oftentimes unnecessary obsession many lifters have with total protein intake and protein timing. That it actually matters a lot less than these guys think it does. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, do a little bit of crafting, and let's talk about this. All right, something we see a lot in the industry, and I see coaches, athletes, bodybuilders, everyone on their social media all the time talking about this stuff. And people make such a big deal about it. But you know what the truth is? And actually something I've observed, when you look at the information that's given to a lot of professional top-level athletes who need muscle mass and strength, such as championship-winning NFL players, even top-level Olympic lifters who are, again, world-class athletes. These are all strength athletes. These are all people who need muscle mass, speed, power, strength. Their nutritionists, their sports nutritionists oftentimes focus less on protein timing and protein intake than the average lifter that I know does. These people, these champions and their actual nutritionists focus less on this stuff than most people out there. Why do you think that is? Well, the truth is because these people, what they learn in school, because again, most of them are registered dietitians in addition to being sports-specific nutritionists who deal with athletes, they realize that this stuff has oftentimes been overplayed and overhyped, and that it's not something that they need to know in order to produce championship winning athletes. That this stuff is largely the area of supplement research that supplement companies have pushed out, and a lot of times this stuff is kind of pushed out in a way to make people think that they might need these pills and powders. Truth be told, most of these experts, they don't really focus that much on timing of protein at all for these athletes. Why? Because it probably doesn't make enough of a difference to matter in most cases. Meaning, even the benefits that people think that they're getting out of it, when even these supplement companies and the people who promote this stuff, the experts in the industry who promote this stuff, they freely admit the whole idea behind this is to only give you a little tiny advantage, like sometimes less than 0.5% advantage is all they're seeking from it. All right, what people need to understand, if you're not competing at the world level in something, you are never going to notice 0.5% advantage. It's not going to be visible in the mirror, and it's not going to be visible in the weight room in terms of what you lift. I mean, truth be told, if you were going to add 50 pounds to your bench press in a given year, what's another 0.5% of 50 pounds? It's less than a pound. You're not going to notice it. We don't have plates that small. Put that in perspective. If you were going to gain 5 pounds of muscle in 1 year as an intermediate, what's another 0.5% of 5 pounds? It's less than 1 ounce. Can you see that in the mirror? No, even the scale that you stand on can't even measure that. It's usually not accurate enough to pick that up. So we're talking about that's the best case scenario. Truth be told, it might not give anything. But people focus on it so much, and the truth is, as I say many times, most of these athletes are advised by the experts, if they want to gain muscle, to be consuming 1 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So that means a 220-pound athlete is advised to consume between 100 and 160 grams of protein a day in order to facilitate muscle growth. Now, it is important to note that people who are trying to lose body fat while holding onto their muscle tissue do need more protein than this. It's often recommended, again, for athletes 1.5 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight if they're trying to lose body fat. But even then, it's not that hard to get that much. And what I mean by this is people will say, well, that's a lot of protein, but is it really? If you're really active and athletic, it's not uncommon for you to have a maintenance of above 3,000 calories a day as a male. As a male who lifts weights, has a decent amount of muscle mass, who does cardio and is physically active, it isn't uncommon to have a maintenance calories of above 3,000. So even if you're losing weight, a lot of you guys could lose weight on 3,000 calories if you're being physically active and athletic, right? Well, how hard is it to get that much protein? Meaning if you weigh 90 kilos, which is a reasonable weight for an athletic person not on a lot of drugs, 1.5 to 2 kilos or grams per kilo, think about that for a minute. Stop and think about that, of how much that is of your total caloric allotment. 90 times 1.5 is around 145. 90 times 2 is 180 grams of protein. You know how easy it is to get 180 grams of protein on 3,000 calories a day? There are vegans who can pull that off without a protein powder. People who are eating actual animal products and stuff, who are eating a lot of grains and a lot of animal products, it is so easy to get 200 grams of protein without tracking your protein that it's almost a non-issue. And that's what people need to think about. People ask me, how much protein do you eat? And I don't eat that high of a protein a diet. And when I look at it, though, and I've tracked it, for me, I say I try to get about 150 grams a day. But I don't track it, and the few times I do track it, I find that, on some days where I don't eat hardly any animal products or don't eat any meat, I might only get the 150 grams a day. But if I throw a chicken breast or a steak in there, I end up going over 200. It's so easy to reach those sort of numbers when you're athletic and active and you lift weights and do cardio. Usually your maintenance calories are so high that unless you're avoiding high protein foods, like completely avoiding them, it's almost impossible to not reach those sort of numbers. But people want to obsess over it. And I mean, really think about it. If you eat a pound of chicken a day, that's like the cheapest protein source. That's 120 grams of protein. If you eat some beans and pasta in there as well, you can hit 180 grams of protein easily, sometimes on 2,000 calories. You could eat zero protein on your other 1,000 calories. Zero protein. With the last 1,000 calories you have a day, just eating like that and never track anything and be way over the recommended minimums. It's not a big deal. Why don't they also focus on the timing? Well, because simply put, it doesn't matter. Meaning, Alan Aragon had said one time that based on his education and his experience working with athletes, and again, he has a master's in nutritional science, and he does coach everyone from NFL players. He was Stone Cold Steve Austin's nutritionist. But he has been the nutritionist for several NFL players, as well as quite a few competitive bodybuilders. So a lot of them, quite a few of the natty pros have hired him and continue to hire him because they've got good results. He said that there isn't conclusive data to determine how many protein feedings a day would actually be optimal. But he said if he had to wager, it would probably be around 3 or 4. And anything beyond that probably wouldn't have any benefits to you. Well, how many serious athletes eat less than 3 or 4 meals a day? How many of them are consuming no protein from any meals, who don't have at least 3 or 4 meals a day that are moderately high in protein? Because they eat a little bit of meat or they eat some beans and pasta. It's almost non-existent. So because of that, because it is so easy and common for athletic people who eat a lot of food to hit 3 or 4 decent-sized servings of protein a day without ever thinking about it, this stuff is a non-issue. It's a complete non-issue, and yet people obsess over it like it's a really, really important topic. And the truth is, yes, protein is important for muscle gains. Yes, getting enough essential amino acids is important for muscle gains. In fact, it's essential. It's not just important, it is required. But because of that, the supplement industry has cashed in on this, and they try to convince people that they need more servings of protein a day than they really do. They try to focus on things like post-workout shakes and things that actually, when you look at the data that they're using to come to those conclusions is very flawed, because all of the data supporting that is from people who were fasted overnight and then trained fasted. They gain an advantage, but they're not better off than the people who had eaten carbs and protein before they trained. Who didn't train fasted, they don't gain an advantage over those people by consuming it. So there's no advantage to waiting. It's just that if you happen to wait and you don't eat any breakfast and you go lift weights and train hard for an hour on a completely empty stomach, you do benefit at that point from getting fast absorbing protein and carbs in post-workout. Absolutely true. But people who ate first don't. They don't gain any real advantage over timing it then versus waiting later. There's no advantage. They can just eat slower absorbing carbs and protein an hour after they train, and they will receive just as good, if not more benefits. Usually more. They'll usually gain more muscle than the person who waited to do it fasted and then consume the quick absorbing stuff post-workout. All the data for the quick absorbing post-workout benefits, which is one of the reasons that people buy protein shakes, that's one reason they've been hyped up, is to push that. Telling people that they need 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That's actually fairly easy to do also without consuming any protein supplements, but because of it and telling people that they need more meals spread out through the day and then they don't have time to cook 6 meals a day, they end up needing these protein shakes to meet those needs. are telling people they need 5 or 6 servings of protein a day, right, to maximize anabolic drive and everything, which the data's not there to support that. It's not true, at least not in humans. Not in humans who aren't fasted, humans who actually eat breakfast, who eat several meals a day. Doesn't seem to be a real benefit to that. But the companies that push that, these supplement companies, again, to convince people they need the protein shakes because they don't want to have to cook 5 or 6 meals a day, space it out, carry Tupperware with them everywhere. So the protein shakes make it convenient. They've been sold as a convenience factor. Not always directly, but indirectly in the sense of people don't want to have to deal with that much different food. But the truth is, it's not hard to get 3 or 4 meals every day from Whole Foods without proteins, without needing any of these products. But the supplement companies don't want you to know that. They don't want you to realize you could get by on 3 or 4 meals a day and maximize anabolic drive just fine. In fact, that's good enough sometimes to go win a Super Bowl. That's sometimes good enough to win a medal in the Olympics. An achievement the vast majority of people who train could never dream of doing. Yet these athletes don't have a problem doing that. Why? Because it just isn't that necessary. It's not that hard to get 3 or 4 meals of protein in them every day. It's not that hard to get enough protein unless you're specifically avoiding high protein foods. It's not difficult to get the amount of protein you need for maximum muscle growth from just normal foods without a supplement and without even tracking your protein. But everyone wants to because the supplement industry keeps telling and pushing that this is so important. Tons of people seem to focus on it and think it's important to the point of obsession. It's not. This is something that should be so easy to do. Again, to get sufficient protein to gain muscle as quickly as possible and to get enough protein feedings per day to give all the anabolic signaling that you need from leucine and other branched chain amino acids. To get all of that is so easy if you're just consuming a fair amount of food and you're physically active that it shouldn't actually take conscious effort for you to do this. It shouldn't actually require you to think about it. It's that easy to do just intrinsically. It should not even be an issue we're discussing unless you're talking to someone who's like a raw vegan who eats only lower protein or moderate protein vegan foods and doesn't even eat the really high protein vegan foods that are out there. That's the only person this might be an issue for. Or the people who are trying to do crazy intermittent fasting where they only eat 1 or 2 meals a day. So outside of the very extreme examples, anyone who's on a reasonably balanced meal plan, anyone who eats a reasonably balanced diet, who eats enough calories to maintain weight or gain weight, or only lose weight very slowly, who lifts weights and does cardio both regularly and is physically active, it should be so easy to hit these numbers that this topic should never even need to come up. Yet people are obsessed with it. The only reason they're obsessed with it is because a supplement industry that is trying to get you to buy products that you don't need has convinced people that it's an important topic that needs to be talked about all the time. Protein, protein, protein. Really, it's not that hard to get 150 grams of protein a day. It's not that hard to get 200 grams of protein a day without ever tracking it while just eating normal, whole, healthy foods. It is not difficult. It shouldn't require you to track anything or supplement anything to get there. In fact, you have to be following some sort of bizarre eating pattern or restrictive diet for this to even be an issue. Do the math yourself. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.